Walk into your kitchen right now. Go stand in front of your microwave oven and look very closely at the front window. You will notice something that you have stared at 10,000 times, but probably never actually thought about. The glass isn't clear. It is covered in a dark metal film, punched with hundreds of tiny, perfectly spaced black dots. Have you ever wondered why that mesh grid is there? Why didn't the engineers just use a normal piece of clear glass so you could easily see your food cooking? The truth is, that tiny black grid is not a design choice. It is a highly engineered piece of scientific armor. And if someone were to remove that metal mesh and you stood in front of that glass while the microwave was running, the water inside your eyeballs would literally begin to boil. You have a military-grade radiation chamber sitting on your kitchen counter, and that thin layer of dots is the only thing keeping you safe. To understand why this grid is a matter of life and death, we have to go back to the year 1945, at the end of the Second World War. We have to look at an American engineer named Percy Spencer. Percy Spencer wasn't trying to invent a way to heat up frozen burritos. He was working for a company called Raytheon, building advanced radar systems to detect enemy airplanes and submarines. One day, Spencer was standing in a lab right in front of an active magnetron. A magnetron is a massive vacuum tube that generates massive, powerful microwave radio signals. As he was working, he noticed something strange happening in his pants pocket. He reached in and pulled out a peanut cluster candy bar. It had completely melted into a warm, gooey mess. Spencer hadn't felt any heat. There was no fire, but the candy bar had cooked from the inside out. He immediately realized that the invisible radar waves bouncing around the room were vibrating the sugar and water molecules inside the candy, generating massive amounts of friction. He had accidentally discovered the most efficient way to cook food in human history, but he had also discovered something terrifying. If a magnetron could melt a chocolate bar from several feet away, what would it do to a human being? Here is the terrifying reality of how a microwave oven actually works. It does not use heat. There is no fire, no glowing red coils, and no hot air. When you press start, the magnetron inside the box blasts your food with a specific frequency of electromagnetic radiation, exactly 2.45 gigahertz. These invisible waves penetrate the food and lock onto the water molecules inside. They force those water molecules to flip back and forth billions of times every single second. This microscopic violence creates immense friction, and not friction creates rapid, blistering heat. Now, remember your high school biology class. The human body is composed of about 60% water. If those invisible microwave waves were to leak out of the box and hit you, they wouldn't just warm your skin like a sunny day. They would penetrate your tissue and begin violently vibrating the water inside your cells. The most vulnerable part of your entire body to this specific type of radiation is your eyes. Unlike your skin or muscles, your cornea has almost no blood flow. Blood acts like a radiator, carrying excess heat away from your tissues. Without blood flow to cool it down, the water inside your eye would heat up incredibly fast. If you stared into an unshielded microwave, the proteins in your eyes would cook and turn white exactly like the egg whites of a frying egg. You would develop instant, irreversible cataracts. You would be permanently blind in a matter of minutes. So how do you safely trap invisible radiation inside a box while still allowing the human user to look inside and make sure their soup isn't boiling over? You cannot use lead. You cannot use solid steel because then you couldn't see the food. And you cannot use normal glass because microwaves pass right through glass as if it wasn't even there. The engineers had to turn to a brilliant piece of physics invented in the 19th century by an English scientist named Michael Faraday. They needed a Faraday cage. A Faraday cage is an enclosure made of conductive metal that blocks electromagnetic fields. But the genius of the Faraday cage is that it doesn't have to be a solid wall of metal. It can be a mesh, it can be a net. It all depends on the size of the wave you are trying to trap. Think of it like a chain link fence. If you throw a tennis ball at a chain link fence, the ball bounces off. The ball is too big to fit through the holes. But if you throw a handful of sand at that exact same fence, the sand passes right through to the other side without any problem. This is exactly what is happening on the glass door of your microwave. Electromagnetic radiation travels in waves, and different types of radiation have different sizes. The wavelength of the microwaves bouncing around inside your oven is exactly 12.4 centimeters long, which is about 5 inches. The holes punched into the black metal grid on your microwave door are only about 1 millimeter wide. To a 5-inch microwave, a 1 millimeter hole is basically a solid brick wall. The microwave is the tennis ball. It crashes into the metal grid and bounces back inside to heat your food. The wave is simply too fat to escape. But what about the light? How can you see the food? Visible light is also electromagnetic radiation, just like a microwave. But visible light waves are microscopic. They are the grains of sand. Because the light waves are thousands of times smaller than the holes in the metal grid, they pass through effortlessly, traveling straight to your eyes so you can watch your food spin on the glass plate. It is a masterpiece of precise physical engineering. The grid acts as an impenetrable bouncer at a nightclub, physically blocking the deadly fat waves while waving the tiny light waves right through the door. We live in an age where we take magic for granted. We push a button and water boils. We push another button and our food is perfectly heated. We rarely stop to think about the invisible physics happening inches away from our faces. So tonight, when you go to the kitchen to heat up your dinner, lean in and look at those tiny black dots on the glass. You are not just looking at a window. You are looking at a perfectly calculated mathematical shield. You are looking at a Faraday cage that is physically trapping a weaponized radar signal, protecting your vision and saving your life, all for the price of a frozen pizza.